We've already had the Hyundai Santa Fe before on behind the wheel, and we actually really loved it. Although there were some setbacks like its lackluster fuel economy and its high barrier of entry. And in this episode of Behind the Wheel, we have the Santa Fe Hybrid. Obviously, it's going to address the fuel economy issue, but there is a price hike, so it is more expensive than the Calligraphy. But that means that there's new stuff inside, and the drive is going to be different as well. So let me show you around that in this video today. Today we have the Santa Fe Hybrid. Obviously it's going to be more fuel efficient than the Calligraphy, but there is a price hike. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys around what's new with the features inside, how it drives, and most importantly, its fuel efficiency. But first, let's start with the price. The AutoDeal app can get you the best car at the best price by connecting you to dealers and agents nationwide in the comfort of your own phone. You can also find out specs, colors, and most importantly, prices of any car in the Philippines. For the Santa Fe Calligraphy, that comes in at 3,100,000 Philippine pesos. As for this new hybrid variant, it's priced at 3,330,000 Philippine pesos. In the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge jump, mainly because we're already at the over 3 million Philippine peso mark. And if you're debating between the two, you'd want to know what's different. So let's start off with the exterior. As we've said before, the over-the-top boxy look may throw some people off. But after spending more time with it, I personally have grown to love it. Not to get all deep and stuff, but it's these cars that look different that really push car design forward. Think of the BMW iX or the Kia EV6. If no one's gonna do it, then who will? The Hybrid has a similar headlight and DRL pattern to the Calligraphy, and the H motifs remain throughout the front. The color is fantastic. Green is my favorite color, so maybe I am a bit biased. Although not as pretty, I think these wheels are actually pretty good. You still also have the convenient little hidden handle on the side if you're top loading on the roof rails. Ground clearance is a bit lower than expected at 177mm. And if you look at the overall profile of the car, I guess you really wouldn't be surprised, but that just means that getting in and out for passengers and cargo is much easier. Speaking of cargo, I was able to max out the 628 liters of space inside the Santa Fe with the second row up. I'm out on a camping trip right now, so we were able to just fill up with all our stuff. If you notice how wide the opening is, it really made loading things in here so much easier because, again, the car is quite low, so it's way below my waist, and the opening is so wide, so it's just easy to throw stuff in. That's mainly because the taillights are situated on the trunk itself, on the tailgate, not on the side of the car, so it just makes loading stuff so much easier. Space in the third row isn't so great for someone as tall as me, but smaller passengers like Caco, that should be fine. Here in the back, the features remain the same, where you have a rear AC controls, and then you have an air vent over here, and a USB Type-C charging point with cup holders over here. Same goes for the other side pretty much as well. Here in the second row of the Santa Fe, you'd find the biggest change here in the interior. There's no longer a bench, and now you have two captain seats. Now, it's not going to be like, Starry or custom levels of comfort, but it's still a pretty nice place to be in and a good option for those wanting to be driven around in as opposed to being in the driver's seat. The seats here in the second row are powered, so that's extra convenience for you. You have a sunshade that comes up on the side, two cup holders, seat heaters for some reason, parcel hooks, a USB-C charging point on the front seats, and you also get your own glass roof on top of you just to let that much more light in. The front row of the Santa Fe is one of my personal favorites, and there really is a lot to love here, such as great storage spaces like this clever center console that opens both ways with a connected drawer for the rear, dual wireless chargers, USB-C charging points. There also is this little pocket where you can turn on a UV light to disinfect certain things. The infotainment is responsive and very clear. It has wireless CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. All the settings are easy to get to, and even the surround view camera is also very clear. The speakers in here are actually also pretty good, although they aren't branded, but that's not to say that, speakers have to be branded to be good. It's just that, based on our experience, branded speakers usually perform a bit better, but in the case here, that's not the case because there's no branding on the speakers and they sound pretty good. Other highlights include the great driving position and adjustability. The front seats can also go into a full recline mode with a leg rest too, though they are a bit short for someone my height, to be honest. The heads-up display is also fully colored, but I don't really see any other use from that apart from displaying what you're listening to with fancy album art. Fully colored too is the ambient lighting all around the cabin. There are some downsides such as the air controls. It's fantastic how it's available here for you at a moment's notice, and that gets full marks from me. But the fan control specifically is a bit hard to adjust while you're driving since there's no physical button and you kind of have to look down to, see what you're doing. Again, I'd like to say this front cabin is really one of my favorites in this segment. It's so nicely laid out. The practicality is there because there's so much storage spaces, and the tech and the features are great too. But what also is great about this car is the way it drives. Since this is a hybrid, you guys obviously want to know how it drives against the DCT, the normal non-hybrid version, and also its fuel economy. But before we drive, I'd like to ask you guys, if you do enjoy this video, subscribe because that really helps us out a lot. Now, if you guys have any comments, any critiques of how I'm presenting, just let me know in the comments down below. I'm starting to feel a bit more comfortable, but what do you guys think? And also, if you are still watching up until this point and, could stand my yapping, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Now, let's drive. Underneath the hood of the Santa Fe Hybrid is a smaller engine compared to that of the Calligraphy, since now it is a 1.6 liter. But obviously it is paired with a hybrid system, so it still produces a good amount of power, which is 235 horsepower and 367 Newton meters of torque. How exactly that feels, I think it's a better drive than that of the Calligraphy, since it is very, 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 very smooth. That whole system is also paired with a 6-speed automatic transmission, so there's no jerkiness and there's really no delays when you put down the throttle. Honestly, at times, especially when you're rolling, it kind of feels like an EV, since I guess the electric motors are very apparent. And by the way, it's all-wheel drive also, so when I'm rolling here, we're kind of in traffic now, but when I'm rolling at like 40 and I push it, it just goes immediately because it doesn't really have to wait for anything to happen, because most of the work is being done by the electric motor at lower speeds. So that in turn really makes it a much more smoother drive, and it's more predictable, a more one-to-one kind of feeling. But I wouldn't say it's maybe not as exciting perhaps as the Calligraphy, but these are 3-row SUVs, so the word exciting is really something that it's not something you'd really describe a car like this. Another great thing about the hybrid variant of the Santa Fe is that there's this unique torque vectoring system that only the hybrid variant has. So that means that whether you're turning or going in a straight or pulling, that means the car will put power where it deems it necessary. So whether you're pulling or going on turn, inside the inside tire or the outside tire, it really depends. So it'll keep you as stable as possible. And the best thing about a hybrid will obviously be the fuel efficiency. So out on the highway, we were able to do 22 kilometers per liter. And in the city, it did more than double that of the Calligraphy at 12.8 kilometers per liter. So that is very, very impressive. The suspension here is pretty much the same, so that goes with the comfort. It is a bit better since the wheels here are smaller, but overall it's pretty much the same. It's still pretty comfortable and pretty quiet as well. But I will say though, I know what it's like now with a full complement of cargo and passengers. So the car becomes a bit wafty, especially out on the highway when you're going pretty quick, but it's not that nausea-inducing. It's still quite comfortable. One last feature I'd like to touch on is the advanced driver assist systems, which include adaptive cruise and lane keep assist. So as Michi Torres would say, she's really good. And by that I mean it's really smooth because it's now electrified, so that power delivery is really gonna be linear, right? And you can even set how you want the car to react to certain instances in adaptive cruise. Santa Fe Hybrid really does a good job of justifying its 200,000 peso price cap from the Calligraphy. First of all, the hybrid system, it works so well. I mean, the fuel efficiency, the proof is in the pudding. And then you have the smoothness of the drive, which Honestly, I prefer a bit more jerky drive of the calligraphy. And then if you're a person that wants to be driven around in, then the two captain seats in the second row are really a no-brainer. If you want to learn more about the Santa Fe hybrid calligraphy, all of that stuff, go to AutoDeal.com.ph or download the AutoDeal app, where we can get you the best car at the best price. I'm done. It's my vacation, supposedly, so I'm gonna go chill now. Thanks for watching. Bye. Okay yan. Camping. The great outdoors, fellas. But you know what's funny? If you know, you know. This is where I usually work anyway. So that's kind of silly.